Welcome, everybody. My name's Ann Bell, and I'm the president of Swim Ontario, and it's good to be with you again. Dean, can we have the next slide? Or is that you, Nicole?
I think I can. I don't know. Nicole can run it. Yeah, perfect.
Good. Okay. So we have a full agenda here. And before we just highlight what we're going to talk about, I want to encourage everybody to turn off your microphone. There will be two ways to ask questions as we go through the presentations. One is to put your question in the chat. If you hover at the bottom of the screen, you can see the chat icon, or you can put your hand up, and you do that by going to reactions on the right side at the bottom of the screen, and then you just hit raise hand. The one thing you have to do is when you're finished, you need to lower your hand afterwards, or I'll keep coming back to you. So welcome. Tonight, we're going to give you an update on ONCA, and we have a special guest here to help with that. Aaron Durant is going to be here, and she and Darren will do a presentation on that. Dean is going to talk about the ministry funding and give you an update and answer questions about that. We're also going to hear about tours, Canada Games and programming, the summer meets. I will be talking about the plans for the fall conference weekend and the annual general meeting. We'll hear about the conference awards at the Ontario Aquatic Hall of Fame and an introduction to our 100-year celebration. So lots to cover tonight. The good news is that it is recorded. So, and somebody needs to turn their microphone off, please. Please turn your microphone off. We can hear you. And
okay, give me one
we'll
second.
introduce people as we go. Yes, Dean.
I need to make Aaron a co-host. So there we go. I forgot about that. There we go. I think I've done it. No?
Okay, good. All right. So I think aside from all those rapid introductions, I just want to say that I'm so glad that things are happening now. And I've heard lots of great stories about the competitions, and the kids are so glad to be back in the water. So all good news, and we have lots of good news for you tonight. Okay, Darren and Aaron.
Thank you, Ann. The Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act was signed into law in October of 2021. In that legislation, there is a 3-year grace period, if you will, for all not-for-profit corporations to become compliant with the Act. So this is the first step in Swim Ontario's club education resource project to help our member clubs become compliant with ONCA. I would like to introduce Ms. Aaron Durant, who is legal counsel for Swim Ontario and is a key driver of what Swim Ontario is doing as a corporation to become compliant with the Act. So I will turn it over to Aaron.
Thank you, Darren. And I just have a few points here, and no one ever wants to discuss governance with a lawyer at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night. So I'll start pretty high level during today's session. And as Darren has explained, there is a grace period that is in force until October of 2024. And since this is the first time Swim Ontario is talking to this group about it in any sort of detail, we're going to go over some fairly high level items first today, and Swim Ontario will be rolling out some other resources as we go along this year. The absolute deadline to get yourself compliant with the new legislation is October 19th, 2024, but I think everyone's goal should be to try to have everything in place and organized prior to the start of that swim season in fall of 2024. So you're not worrying about it in the middle of a season. So the first question that your clubs need to ask yourselves is, what type of entity is your club? So the legislative changes that were made applies only to Ontario not-for-profit corporations. So there's a number of ways your clubs might be structured and organized from a corporate perspective. You could be an Ontario not-for-profit corporation. You might be an Ontario for-profit corporation, or you might be incorporated federally under the Canadian legislation. Some of your clubs might not be incorporated at all and might be operating as an unincorporated association of people. So step one is to revisit your documents, your club documents, to determine what exactly it is that you are. And the second step will be to do any required updates to your corporate documents. So assuming you are incorporated, there are annual things that your club should already be doing, such as keeping the government updated on who your officers and directors are by filing online. And it's not uncommon for clubs to forget to do that as institutional memory comes and goes from the organization. So everyone always knows that you should do an AGM and you should have meetings and take minutes, and you need to make note of who your officers and directors are. But people sometimes forget about the reason why they're doing some of those things, and some of those answers to the reason why is because it's required by legislation. So step one for everyone, if you don't already know, is to spend some time looking at your corporate records, your club records, to figure out just how you are structured and what the club is from a legal perspective. And if you are an Ontario not-for-profit corporation, the rest of this presentation applies to you. We expect that a large number of Swim Ontario's member clubs are registered as Ontario not-for-profits, as it's a very common way that sports organizations decide to structure themselves. So what do you need to do if you are an Ontario not-for-profit organization? I'm just going to share my screen here, portion of it. Maybe Darren, can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the Ontario government website has a guide for not-for-profit corporations that's very easy to find just by popping Ontario not-for-profit corporations into Google. This should be one of the first things that comes up. And this guide is helpful to explain everything you need to know about those types of corporations, and has some information about the new legislation. The most important thing you're going to have to do under the new registration is make sure that your bylaws are compliant with what's required by ONCA. So the legislation involving not-for-profit corporations in Ontario hadn't been updated in many, many years, and was in many ways out of date. And this legislation was put into place to modernize what Ontario not-for-profit corporations can do, and to provide some more guidance in terms of what they're required to do by law and what should be in their bylaws. The Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act has a grace period, a transition period. Darren mentioned the 3 years. So just because this law came into force October 2021, it doesn't mean you're out of date if you haven't changed anything. It just means that you need to make certain changes by October of 2024. The most important one being updating your bylaws. If you don't update your bylaws, it's not as if your corporation automatically gets dissolved. What ends up happening is, by law, the standard bylaws that are implemented under this legislation automatically become your bylaws. And the standard bylaws are also available online. So how I would suggest you go about discussing your bylaw amendments with your board is taking a look at your current bylaws and comparing them to these standard organizational bylaws and determining whether you just want to adopt these standard bylaws that the government has suggested, which may be an easy approach, or you can use this as a guide to potentially come up with your own, perhaps with the assistance of a lawyer, a volunteer lawyer, or one of the legal clinics available in Ontario that help not-for-profit corporations. So one of those is at Queen's University, the Queen's Business Law Clinic. They have law students who basically for credits in law school will help not-for-profits with governance issues, with drafting. And there's similar clinics at other law schools that you might want to look out for as well. Or if you happen to have a lawyer that you work with already, they can help you through this process. So step one, as I said, is going to be figuring out what you are. And step two, if you are a not-for-profit corporation registered in Ontario, you're going to need to do some work reviewing your bylaws and adopting them prior to October of 2024. One last website I want to show you. So this is called the Ontario Business Registry. And this is a place where you can go if you have no clue what type of organization your organization is, whether you're a not-for-profit, a for-profit, whether you just have a registered business name. What you would do is scroll down to the section of this document that says search the Ontario Business Registry. And you would type in the name or part of the name of your club here. And it'll show a list of organizations either with the same name or similar names, and you should be able to see what you are. So I'll just do a search here of my last name. Oh, there's a lot. I'll do the full name of our firm. So you'll see my law firm name came up. It'll show my registration date and the type of business that we are. So if you did the same process with your club name, it would help you see whether or not you're registered as a corporation and what type of corporation. So if you look at AF Durant Consulting, you'll see that this organization is registered as an extra provincial federal corporation, which means that it is federally incorporated and it's not subject to the new Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act. You'll see this one, A. Durant Contracting, and I believe that could be my uncle, small world. He is incorporated as an Ontario Business Corporation. So this is a resource you can use if you're having trouble figuring out what it is your club actually is. Now I'm going to turn it over to Darren shortly if you wanted to turn back on his camera, but just to introduce Darren's topic here, as many of you who've been involved with swim clubs should know, if you've been involved for a number of years, you'll know that Swim Ontario requests certain information about clubs, usually on an annual basis, but that process had stopped, I understand, during COVID. And essentially my understanding of the requirement is that your officers, directors need to be up to date, and that Swim Ontario asked for some information about that. Darren, can you perhaps explain what's required by Swim Ontario and what your upcoming deadlines are in that regard?
Sure. So as a reminder, according to our affiliation documents, all Swim Ontario age group clubs need to be incorporated as not-for-profit need to be incorporated, and they can be incorporated as for-profit or not-for-profit corporations, depending on how they conduct their business. So that's number one. Again, that's all Swim Ontario age group clubs, and that's in our affiliation guide. If you look, I think it's on page 6 or page 5, if I'm not mistaken. The second thing is, and we haven't done this throughout the period of COVID, but you will recall every once in a while, Swim Ontario asks for proof that you have submitted your updated board of directors list to the business registry. And when you do that, you also want to make sure that the people that are no longer on your board have been deleted from that registry. Funny story, we were working with a club earlier this year, and sad but true, a few of their board members that were listed on the registry had either moved out of the province or were deceased. So it tells you that we need to make sure that that information is up to date, because as Aaron will tell you, if a club ever gets into trouble, a smart lawyer will go to that business registry and start filing statements of claim against all of the registered boards of directors. So we need to make sure, for the sake of the people that have helped you in the past and are no longer with the club, that their names are not on that registry and only the current board members are on that registry. So we haven't done it in 2 years because of COVID. So it's time that everybody take a look at that document and make sure that it's up to date. So I see there's a few questions.
The main one, I think Aaron's putting some things down, but
Yeah.
Is there a way to check who is listed as a director?
Very good question. So if you don't know whether or not your corporate filings have been up to date, the best way to find out is to use the Ontario Business Registry search first to find the name of your club. And then there's also options through those same resources to order what's called a corporate profile report. And it will be that document which will show exactly who's listed as officers and directors. And it will also show the last year of filing. There is an online fee to get a copy of your corporate profile report. But if you're not able to dig up the information any other way from your own records, that's what I would go about ordering, is one of those reports online. You can also, if you're not an online person, get assistance in some of these areas with the Service Ontario bricks and mortar offices. So the same places you'd go to get a driver's license photo renewed, they have access to the same resources. I saw a question in the chat just now about where you can order the corporate profile report from. And that is a good question. And I'll track that down and put it into the chat as well. One other reason why it's important to make sure your officers and directors are up to date with the government and also in your own books is for insurance coverage reasons. So as you may know, there's a summary of what types of insurance coverage is provided to clubs through Swim Ontario on the Swim Ontario website. And I helped do that summary a couple of years ago now, but officers and directors of swim clubs are entitled to certain coverages, and you want to make sure they're actually registered as officers and directors so that there's no issues during coverage determination time as to who the actual officers and directors of the organization are. Any other questions while I'm just locating this website to share?
There is another one. Aaron, do the requirements for incorporation apply to clubs that operate under the umbrella of personal support programs of the Canadian Forces? So this is if you are, and there could be other examples of clubs that operate as part of another organization.
So the easy answer to that is no. There are three categories where clubs are not required to produce incorporation, and that's master swim clubs, university clubs, and clubs that operate under the Canadian Forces umbrella. All other clubs, all age group clubs are required to have some type of incorporation status.
And how do you remove past officers or directors?
That's a great question. So by using the resources through the Ontario government and the same websites that I was sharing earlier, basically all you need to do is file a form updating who your current officers and directors are, as well as their contact information. And that will get filed either online through Service Ontario by creating a one key account, or if you're less comfortable with online filing, you can do the filing at a Service Ontario office. So essentially it's you need to fill out a form with the information. And you have to make sure also before you fill out that form that the new officers and directors have been properly adopted at a meeting of the club and put into force that way. So really it's paperwork. Some clubs may have less work to do than others. If you've been doing regular annual filing, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. If you haven't known you had to file for a few years, you might have a bit more work to do, but most of it is fairly user-friendly with the instructions available online, or as I said, some of those legal clinics that are run by law students are quite helpful in getting not-for-profit corporations back up and into compliance if they've forgotten about these steps over the years.
So I can quickly share my screen with the incorporation. This is straight out of the club affiliation guide. So you can have a quick read through that. Those are the specific requirements for club incorporation.
And somebody was just asking, Aaron, it's an annual. Is it an annual requirement to update, or when there's a change you have to update?
So typically there's definitely you need to update when there is a change, and depending whether or not you're registered as a not-for-profit corporation or a for-profit corporation, there may be an annual filing required. So for-profit corporations require work to be done on an annual basis, and not-for-profit corporations tend to only require updates when there is a change. So I was doing some searching earlier on swim clubs, and there appears to be some where an initial incorporation was done many years ago, and the same officers and directors are still listed as being involved with the club. So you're just going to want to make sure that it's up to date with your most recent officers and directors. And I think a best practice would be every year when you have your annual general meeting that you should give some thought into these issues, whether there's any updates required to be filed online, who's responsible within your club for doing the updates. Are you going to have it be, your secretary or your treasurer or a staff person if you have staff? It's a good thing to review on an annual basis. So I'm having trouble getting on the website where where you can search for the corporate profile report. So I will send that before I leave. I saw a question for the link for the law clinic. I'll get you that. Hopefully I have no trouble with that website. Any other questions in the chat that I should address?
No, nothing there. Aaron, thank you very much. Thank you, Darren. And
sorry for interrupting. I'll stick around.
Yeah.
And I'll share those links in the chat as other people are addressing their topics. And as always, if you have any questions, we're here to help. And we'll be sharing more resources about this, including a longer document with some of these resources on the Swim Ontario website as we get closer to the deadline. So we'll help you all get through the process eventually. Thanks for having me, Dean.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I carry on, Ann? Am I good to start?
Yes, you're on.
All right. Well, I have to say that I think this little bit of information is quite informative, and that's been part of what we've been trying to do for the last little while, having these president calls, give you some good information to hopefully help you get on the right track of things and be better. And as Darren alluded to, there will be a follow-up process of this, a workshop per se at our conference weekend. And definitely there will be information sessions on other options. So I can't believe it's May already, even though it hasn't really shown to be a good spring yet, but it's coming. I just really want to come back to the people who are on the call and those that are not, but you know, the resilience and the persistence of everyone has just been incredible. We've had a busy return, March and April, whether you're hosting meets or whether you're able to attend some of the provincial hosted competitions that we've had and some of the national competitions. But you know, the performances have shown well. The swimmers, as it was said earlier, were quite excited. I know the coaches are very pleased to be doing what they're doing. But from a club aspect, thank you for having the backs of the swimmers and the coaches and the volunteers and the officials. It's been quite rewarding as we try and come through this period to hopefully what will be our you know, a bright horizon, bright future. So, and also take the time to support, you know, to thank your supporting networks and your facilities, because they've had to work really hard. As we start to get into the agenda here, I'm just really topping up with some information. I just want to say the leadership team of Swim Ontario has remained focused on getting through these challenges every step of the way, just as you have. And the leadership team is, as I refer to, is not just the strong relationship of the board of directors and the Swim Ontario staff, but it also is the number of committees that we have, board committees and operation committees, and they've been along every step of the way. So really appreciative of the the continuance and the steadfast manner that they have for the organization to be where we are right now. So fantastic. Now to the ministry funding. Hopefully many of you are aware that the province of Ontario, through the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, Culture, Industry, allocated money to all the provincial sport organizations. And it was a big chunk of money that we're aware of that's come to swimming in an amount of $373,000. We originally started to top it up a little bit with Swim Ontario support to try and get to a number that seemed to be would be well received within the clubs, and looking at 129 eligible clubs. And pleased to say that we've actually topped it up since then to amount of about $517,000 using some Ontario money along with the ministry money. So it's a good chunk of money that's actually going to be distributed back to the clubs. Now, we asked for an application process. We kept it simple. We had a deadline of April 29th. We saw that we weren't quite getting to the threshold that we would like to see. We're still just shy of 100 clubs of the 129 that we felt were the ones that were eligible. And so hopefully you'll have are aware of the extension that we put out, I think a communication yesterday, to allow you to get that application form in. We just want to see that you're viable, you're running along, you're working along and understanding what we're asking for. And we tried to give a bit of a sense of where clubs were at, what their needs are. It could be competition hosting, could be officials and volunteer training. It could be swimmer retention and recruitment for both para and able body, improved club organization and administration, coach education training, diversity and inclusion. So we gave a myriad of menu items so that we could see where you felt was a priority for you and that you would look to that to invest in. So we're just shy of 100 clubs that have applied so far. We are have that extension to May 6th, so please get that in. It's a very simple application form. It's not meant to be onerous at all. It's meant to just give a bit of information that we will use to be able to give a report back to the ministry. We had a short turnaround time for this. This came to us in March, early March, and we had to have a criteria built back to the ministry by March 21. It's the end of the fiscal for everybody, and we know that things come hard and fast. So we were able to do that, and we were pleased with what we were able to offer. The ministry has allowed the PSO, the provincial bodies, to use 10% of the allocation to their discretion, but we felt that we would like to see all of it go that way. And anyways, we look to be able to get that out the door once we have the deadline closed, and we can review some of the information. We are collecting a bit of information on that. So that's been a really good piece of the puzzle that we're pleased that we're able to partner with the province of Ontario and with our own resources to help you out. We wanted to keep it simple. Anyways, the next thing is that also came with the package from the ministry was the Quest for Gold. And some of you are maybe familiar with Quest for Gold. It's a performance-based support program. And usually it is, we supply a criteria each year. It's been on hold in a sense. It's been, tried to work through, but we're trying to get back to where that is. This time around, they actually gave the discretion and the disbursement capabilities to the sport organizations to do it. It's a one-time thing. Maybe there'll be some lessons learned than that. We did create 3 areas of focus. One would be club performance fund, one an athlete performance fund, and provincial sport program support. So there's approximately $109,000 in that, and that goes directly to individuals or clubs and things like that. So we're in the process of working through that based on our athlete identification, on our club performance criteria. So those are all things that are coming around, and it's there to support the current performance development, the next generation, and again, it was in a short turnaround. So we'll have some reporting to do on that. I just want to bring it to your attention that when we look at a 2-year period or a 2+ year period of where it's been very challenging for everyone and never not knowing how we were all going to come out of this, is that with our partners, the ministry, Swimming Canada, the federal government, we've been able to get back out into the clubs, support the clubs to the tune of about $765,000. And I'm quite pleased, as is the board, that we were able to do that. So it's in the hands of our swimming clubs. Some receive more and some receive less. But it's in various facets along the way. We tried various ways of doing so. So all in all, I think it's been a good period of time for us. Hopefully you're going to apply for this money, use it well, get the kickstart, rebuild and recover. And now we can get back to what would be what we'll call near normal or normal. And as we know, we're learning along the way. Just because the lights are turned on doesn't mean everything is going to be perfect. And so that really is the description on the ministry funding. Is there any questions on that? Ann, do you see anything?
No, I've been watching for that.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's pretty self-explanatory. Again, it's pretty clear. You did get a reminder sent yesterday in the communications bulletin. And so just look up that link and get that application in, and then we will work our way to get the money out to you quickly. It has to be a quick turnaround. It has to be allocated within your club focus quite quickly. So that's a good news story. Fantastic. I'm just going to carry on a little bit, Ann. Just a note on the 22-23 registration that the packages as usual will be ready in July, near the end of July. So that will be coming. I can tell you that there are no fee increases from Swimming Canada or from Ontario. And again, the RTR system is being looked at and tried to be improved on, and they have a major project. Swimming Canada has a major project on their hands to see it to be even better in due time. It's a huge undertaking, but hopefully with things moving along in the manner they are, it should be a seamless and a very fruitful registration for the fall. Note just regarding our graduation recognition, we will be doing that again in a different manner. It will be we'll still ask for clubs to submit who their graduating class is. That's high school and university. We will have certificates to give out of the information that we have received, certificates to give out and do a bit of I'll call it a walk of graduation recognition at the various meets, being the Ontario Youth Juniors and the Ontario Swimming Championships. Those will be in June and July. So that is happening. And one last note on coaching, talking with Lindsay today, she's working on some more courses, more programming, some virtual, but trying to get back into the in-person pieces, trying to line up her facilitators, line up places where they can be, these things can take place. So these are all in the mix of things, amongst other things that we're going to lead on to. I have a few staff that are on tonight. We have Stu that's going to talk about the tours and Canada Games selection and programming. Nicole and Christy will talk about our summer meets. We'll bring a little update on the conference, the awards and the Hall of Fame from Christy, and then I'll speak to the 100-year celebration. So there we go. Just that note, we'll get that information out to you regarding where to send it. I'm probably a good thing. I don't know if Karen's on tonight, but she's probably shaking her boots going, oh my God, he did it. He did that to me again. But we want to streamline it, and we were successful to do it in a virtual manner in the last couple of years, but I think we can do it in an in-person real manner, just to make those graduating athletes feel just a little bit special coming out of these tough times. So I don't know if there's any questions on that right now, but if not, we can just move on to the tours part, and I'll have Stu speak.
Thanks, Dean. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, my internet the weather in Guelph is not helping my internet this evening, so I'll just have to talk to you here. So with regards to the tours, it's a busy, as Dean referenced, it's a busy time, especially with the selection of the Junior Pan Pac team through Swimming Canada, as well as some open water selections, and of course the World Championship team and the Commonwealth Games team. So it's nationally and provincially, it's a busy time in terms of getting teams selected. We do have currently 2 tours in the field. So one is a interprovincial collaboration with Swimming Canada, leading the sort of logistics of the entire tour. And that is to the Best Fest open water race in Mallorca, Spain. So we currently have 4 athletes attending and 1 coach, and they'll be working with Swimming Canada's distance and open water head coach, Mark Perry, and a number of distance and open water focused swimmers from across the country. at this camp and open water competition that'll take place at the end or beginning of June, end of May, beginning of June. The other one that's in the field right now is a tour for our junior aged and older athletes, going to the Mel Zajac International Swim Meet in Vancouver at the beginning of June. We have currently 8 or 9 athletes that are confirmed to attend, along with 2 coaches. The selection criteria for both of those tours are available on the website under athletes and tour teams. We're excited by both of these. I can tell you, though, it has been a bit of a challenge in order to select and confirm these athletes, because there is so much going on right now, and especially at that time of year with the older athletes who are dealing with sort of end of school exams and proms and social activities. So we're excited about the fact that we're back doing these, but we were sort of recognizing another level of challenge that we'll have to take into account for planning of next year. With regards to Canada Games, so Canada Games is our largest tour of the year. Canada Games being held in Niagara the first 2 weeks of August. Swimming is a week 1 sport, so it'll be the first full week of August, with a couple of camps leading up to the games in preparation. We are in the selection process. So we've had the performance window close as of this past Sunday, and now we are in the process of selecting our athletes. We have moved to, we have identified our Special Olympics athletes and para athletes, and we are in process of finalizing our Olympic stream athletes. That process will be ongoing. It is quite a big program in terms of confirmation. So that'll be ongoing through the end of this week, early next week, in finalizing the team. I believe, Dean, that's all I have in terms of the tours and Canada Games update. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But if there are some direct questions that can be taken offline, you can certainly email me at stu@swimontario.com, and I'm happy to have a conversation anytime.
Okay, I don't think any questions came in. Did you see anything, Ann, or anybody see anything?
Nothing there.
Perfect. Good job, Stu. Thank you. Thank you for, yeah, it's been a bit, as you said, a busy time and challenging as we got all excited about just getting back into it. And I think there's a bit of a wear and tear effect. The next piece is on the summer meets. But before I get to that, I just want to say that, it's been a wonderful, challenging, but wonderful experience that we actually were able to host the Spring Forward meets and the host clubs. Thank you very, very much to the officials, but I have to say to the staff, this was a full-on staff approach to try and figure out what can we do, how can we make something happen, and I think all accounts things went very, very well. It was part of our investment process back. We invested heavily into this as we move forward, and I think from all accounts, from what I've heard and seen, a great success by our athletes, from just getting back to the pool and back to racing, right through those ones that are developing, performing, and making teams and representing Ontario around the world. Pretty amazing. So I'm going to ask Nicole and Christy just to speak. They worked in tandem in a lot of ways. Nicole does a lot of the background and getting hosts and everything organized, along with Christy with the facility. So I'll turn it over to Christy and Nicole to give us a bit of an update what the summer is going to look like.
Okay, thank you very much, Dean. I'm going to give a brief overview, and then I'll pass it over to Nicole. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. So with regards to the summer meets, we're very pleased to be offering championship formats this summer for festivals, OYJ, and Ontario Swimming Championships. So festivals is being hosted by eSwim at the Olympium. Ontario Youth Juniors hosted, it's a co-hosting with Crest and Richmond Hill at Markham Pan Am Pool, and then Ontario Swimming Championships is being hosted by Whitby at the Toronto Pan Am Sports Centre. So very excited. Nicole will be speaking a little bit further about the packages and that side of it. So I'm going to leave that. I just want to briefly say that for the because this is a championship meet and championship meets, and because we're celebrating 100 years, we've taken the opportunity to incorporate the 100-year logo into the awards for these three competitions. So the medals, it's very exciting, but also the logo that'll be on any of the t-shirts and also the backdrop. And we will be having a 100-year, we're working on, along with the 100-year committee, a pop-up that will celebrate and showcase 100 years of Swim Ontario. And it will be at all of these, the idea is that the pop-up will be at the festivals, at Ontario Youth Juniors and Ontario Swimming Championships. So that's a little bit about the three in pool championships. I'll pass it over to Nicole, and then maybe she can pass it back to me, and I'll briefly touch on the open water.
Thank you, Christy. I don't have too much to say either, other than the three meet packages for the 3 summer in-pool meets are available, and entries are open for athletes. You will notice if you go to the Swim Ontario website, not sure if I'm sharing it correctly or not, but under athletes and competitions, you'll have updates, and you'll have a list of all of the meets here. And if you just click on the links, it will take you to the meet information page where you will find all the details about changes that we've recently made to both Ontario Youth Championships and to festivals. Here's our 100-year logo, but I think the next slide will have that as well. So I'll just touch a little bit on OYJ. It has been reduced to a 3.5 day meet, with Sunday being time final half day, so everybody can go home at a reasonable time on the Saturday. And it is being held on the same weekend as festivals. And for festivals, we've lowered the standard to the C standard in order to have enough athletes to make the meet sustainable. From our spring forward meet, we recognize that the 12 and under swimmers, we did not have enough to be able to run a summer festivals on its own, so we needed to make some changes to that. For the Ontario Swimming Championships, we will have a para swimming and Special Olympic separate events. It will be a full calendar of events for those. And so that's all for me. I'm going to pass it over back to Christy with respect to open water.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. So I'll be really brief on the open water. We expect to get that posted imminent or soon, the actual package. The save the date is July 16, 17, again at Gull Lake in Gravenhurst. It will be our provincial open water championship. So again, there will be awards at the competition, and we plan on offering, in addition to the the 2K and the relays, the 4x500 relay that we offered last year, a 1K and also a 5K. This will be open for age group as well as masters. So right now you can expect more information to be posted on that with a package coming soon. But that's just a little bit of an update on the open water. And unless there's any questions. Just one other thing with regards to facilities. So Dean referenced that, yes, we have been working with facilities. So the Olympium, Markham, and Toronto Pan Am, all three of these facilities have also put on hold for us in terms of recognizing that for 2023, as you would recall, pre-pandemic, we would already be doing a call out for the bid on the next year's provincial competitions. So we are working with the hosts. We have dates in place, and clubs can expect a call out for bids for 2023, probably the first or second week of June. We will be posting that. And that's it from me, unless there's any questions. Thank you.
Dean,
Yes?
can I come in here with the AGM? Because
You
I think
betcha.
I was supposed to do it at
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
beginning.
cut it out.
Yeah.
I messed with the slides today. Yes.
Well, that's
and
okay.
By all means. By all means.
So, I'll just turn my picture on. I can do that. So the conference weekend is scheduled for September 23rd to 25th, and there will be more information coming out about that. But the board has been spending some time deliberating about how to organize the AGM. And the conference is in person. We considered doing a in-person only AGM, or a combination. And we felt that the in-person would be, it would make it not as accessible for clubs, and have really been pleased with the turnout when we've been having the virtual AGMs. So, and we felt it would be really difficult to run a mix of an in-person plus people being online. So we have decided to hold the AGM in advance of the conference weekend. It will be held on Tuesday, September 20th in the evening, and there'll be information coming out to you. But just want to explain that it is a little different doing the AGM at a different time than the conference, but I think it'll work best to ensure that everybody has a chance to participate. I've been asked by the nominations committee to highlight some of the events for that AGM. Andy Mitchell is the chair of that committee, and he has given me some details about the nominations and the process, which will be published for everybody. So this year, because of the amendments to our bylaws that were approved at last year's AGM, we will be electing 5 director positions. Now, this is for a board of 9. So it's a changeover year. There are the 3 directors who have reached the end of their term and may or may not be running again. And then there are 2 new positions. So it's going to be a very interesting year. Fundamentally, the decision as to who sits on the board is the prerogative of the electors, the clubs represented on this call. So in making those decisions, the nominations committee is asking club representatives to consider some broad points. The importance, and these are the points: the importance of diversity on the board so that it reflects the membership it represents. So we're encouraging you to give consideration to that. A gender balance that reflects the swimming community, representation from across the broad geography of Ontario, the importance of selecting individuals who have core competencies needed by the board, and the importance of providing candidates the opportunity to tell electors about their qualifications. That committee has been very thorough in looking at how to make this the most democratic and successful process. So a formal call for nominations will be circulated later in May, and we encourage everyone to consider whether serving on the board may be a way for you to contribute to Swim Ontario. And so with that in mind, I'm looking forward to both the AGM and the conference weekend. And I think the next two items are going to focus on that, right, Dean?
Yes, it will. And I'm going to ask Christy to speak about the conference. It's definitely going to be a busy weekend, or week, as you pointed out, September 23 and 24. So there's the conference piece that hopefully will allow for coaches to have some development, for the officials to have some development, and also for club administrator, club leaders to have some development. We will be recognizing our athletes and our volunteers and our coaches. And also in there will be the Hall of Fame. So I'm going to just turn it over to Christy just to give us a bit of a sense where it's going to be. And we're just still working on a lot of the pieces to it.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. Yes, very exciting that we will be. It will be an action-packed 2 days, Friday, September 23rd, Saturday, September 24th. And it is going to be at the Toronto Airport Marriott, which they've hosted quite a few of our conference, AGM, and awards weekends. So yes, we are currently working on the content and the agenda, absolutely based on feedback and hearing from administrators, officials, clubs, coaches. We want to ensure that there's something and there's a focus on in particular grassroots development and club supports around grassroots development. As well as from a club administrator standpoint, some specifics around club toolkits and supports. And of course, there will be specific officials clinic and seminar or specific workshops for officials as well. So it's going to be a very busy weekend. And as Dean was saying, we are also incorporating the Saturday evening, which is going to be a lot of fun. We will be having our annual Swim Ontario Awards, as well as the Hall of Fame inductions, and 100-year celebration. So it will be a sit-down dinner on the Saturday evening, and we're working on. There'll be some surprises, some exciting surprises that will only those that attend will only see the night of. But we're really looking forward to it, and you will get a taste of what the award celebration has to offer in the coming weeks, and also through the pop-ups, the pop-up 100-year celebration that will be at our that we plan to take out on to our provincial events. I think that's about it as far as stay tuned and keep looking to the Swim Ontario website for more details about the conference registration and specifics around coaches and administrators and officials for how you can register, and then also details around registering for or attending. If you're not attending the full conference, for attending the gala, the 100-year awards and Aquatics Hall of Fame celebration dinner on Saturday night.
Super. All right. And there we go. We'll jump right to this 100-year celebration. It's quite amazing that the organization has been going 100 years, similar to Canadian Tire. So glad to share it with a Canadian-based company such as that. So we've been generating some stories and history, and that will start to show up in our media posts and social media posts and things like that in June. And then, as Chrissy's been talking about the history pop-ups, there will be a pop-up stand at the swim meet, so you'll be able to catch on a little bit of the celebration. We have a load of information, but also really unique things over the years, tracksuits, flags, pictures, all that type of stuff. So we're going to put something together at those swim meets as outlined, and then leading towards the celebration gala on the evening of September 24th. So lots of information coming. Before we know it, 100 years has already gone by. So just giving you the heads up on that, and look forward to seeing many of you, all of you, hopefully, but many of you in person as we move towards through the summer in September. So that's really where we're at. Anne, was there any questions added?
There's a few comments about OYJs that I'm sure the people involved can respond to those people individually. That works.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dean. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to all the presenters and to those who've been listening to us. And we look forward to the next conversation.
Perfect. Thanks, Anne. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.